Facebook page, and hopefully everyone can hear me through this mic. So if you can't hear me, let me know, but welcome to the Abundant Accountant podcast. And hopefully Connie will let me know here in a second if the audio is working, and if it's working, then I'll start recording the other audio that will go on to the podcast. So I'm going to be looking right here at you guys, and we'll get started. So hopefully everyone can hear me on this beautiful microphone, and we will get started. So today on the Abundant Accountant podcast, we are talking about why having an accountant sales strategist is worth it in your firm, and why having any sort of sales strategist is worth it in your firm, and the return on investment that it can bring to you. So that is what I'm talking about today on the Abundant Accountant. I want to thank each person for listening. Also, I wanted to throw in a little twist in what we're doing now. So I would love it, because I think reviews are amazing, that going forward, I will be sharing reviews from other people that have left a review on the Abundant Accountant podcast. But for today, what I would love to know, so I can make sure that I get to know each person listening, is, if you want to take a screenshot of this episode and then at the end tag me, the Pitch Queen, at the end of the show and tell me what you learned from today's episode. What is the biggest takeaway that you're going to put into action today? Share it with me. So take a screenshot of today's episode, tag me at the Pitch Queen, and if you're on LinkedIn, share it on LinkedIn, because this is really how we can help more accountants, CPAs, and enrolled agents really learn. So again, feel free to tag me. It's working? Okay, cool. And, thank you so much for listening. So we're going to get started now, because I also need to record the audio, which I almost forgot. All right. So we are now really starting. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant podcast. Today, again, the topic is why having an accountant sales strategist is worth it in your firm. And here's a little food for thought, because I invested in myself in the last week and went to a really big digital marketing conference. And one of the biggest takeaways that I learned from Dean Graziosi, I hope I said his name right, is that you want to be the thermostat in your firm. You do not want to be the thermometer. And let me explain that to you, because when you're the thermostat in your firm, it's like you get to set the dial, right? Do you want to be at 69 degrees, or do you want to be at like 81 degrees? Like, how hot do you want your firm to be, with the abundance that you want, with the clients that you want, with everything that you're looking for? So if you're just taking the temperature, then you're just looking at the knob and seeing what temperature it is. But you have no way to actually set the thermostat. But by investing in yourself, and investing in your knowledge, and investing in a sales strategist, or investing in your personal development and growth, you're able to set the thermostat a lot better. You're not just taking a temperature, right? So think about that. Dean was awesome. I invested a lot in myself last week to go to this conference. And really, it's, do you want to control your firm life, or do you want your firm to control your life? And that's really what today is about. Are you in control of your freedom and your free time? Or is your firm now in control of your life? Did you just create yourself a job? Which I hope you didn't. So that is what we're talking about today. So one of the questions I hear most from accountants is if an accounting sales strategist is worth it. Is a sales coach worth it? Is, a business coach worth it? And it makes sense, because sometimes sales coaching can get a negative reputation. I've been told that personally. But, it can also become a waste of time. I've been told it can become ineffective. But have you ever in your business looked in the mirror and thought, would you be further ahead today? Have you ever had that thought? Like, you've been working at this for a year or two and you're spinning your wheels. If you feel that way, today in this episode, I will explain why having a sales strategist, an accounting sales strategist, a business coach, whatever you want to call it, why it's worth it, and how you can choose the right one, and also how it can be a great return on your investment. All right, the benefits of a sales strategist, or AKA a coach, whichever one you want to call it. Although all the data and numbers are great, and I know that each of you loves data and you love numbers, it's sometimes most often not enough to enroll new clients. And I was working with one of my clients, Scott. And Scott was in my class that I had, where I'm a sales strategist, as many of you probably know already, to accountants. And he was in class and he's like, Michelle, I thought if I could save a client $40,000, why wouldn't they want me to help them in their business? And I'm like, well, Scott, not everyone will buy off a spreadsheet like myself. If you tell me, Michelle, you can save $100,000 in taxes, I'm going to charge you $20,000 for doing that, I'd be like, okay, no problem, sign me up. When can we start and how soon can we make this happen? Most of your clients, it's not going to be that way, unfortunately. People buy off emotion, and one of the things is that the benefits of having a sales strategist or a coach is you get to learn new things that maybe you're not privy to. And I know that in undergrad accounting classes, when you're getting your CPA, these things just aren't taught. So when you're working with a sales coach or a regular business coach or whatever type of coach you have, you're focusing on developing new skills, knowledge, the use of strategies to attract new clients. And really, that's what Scott learned from me. He was able to close $248,000 in revenue in a 2-month period. This has been revenue that was literally sitting on the table, not doing anything, which, just so you know too, his clients were paying more in taxes for that whole other year since he wasn't able to convert them into new clients. So not only did it hurt him, it hurt his clients too. Because when we don't convert our clients into working with us, there's an opportunity cost missed for them and for ourselves, right? So it's like a double whammy. And my mission and my goal is, if you want to work with me or you want to work with another coach, it doesn't matter. Invest in yourself. Personally, I just invested in almost a 6-month leadership training. And let me tell you, that was a lot of work. But if I'm not my best self, then how can I serve and be my best self to each of you? How can I come and do a podcast episode and really be able to be my best if I'm not growing and learning on my own? So there's areas for me to be able to communicate to each of you better, which is why I went, invested myself in a leadership training for 6 months. Last week, I went to one of the biggest digital marketing conferences, and I know each of you goes to places for your technical knowledge. That I get. You go to the CPA conferences, you go to the EA conferences, you're doing all of your continuing education credits, but no one is teaching and developing on the skills and the knowledge needed in order to help your clients at a greater level. You can help on the technical side, but if we can't get the client to come and work with you, then you can't do the technical work. Make sense? So really teaching you other sales opportunities to help you get more clients and get more revenue flowing in your firm. So maybe you're thinking, is it worth the time, right? I don't know. I believe, and okay, let me tell you, for my leadership training I went through for 6 months, it was the most amount of time I have personally ever invested in anything. It was so much time. The financial commitment wasn't that large, but the time commitment was. So I believe that the ROI, the return on investment, you'll see down the road. You might not see it immediately in an 8-week period like Scott did, but you'll see it in a 90-day to 120-day, maybe 9-month period. And I always believe it is worth the time. But going through training, it will help teach you how to fix your own problems, so you don't have to seek someone else to fix them for you. Or maybe this makes you better and more successful as a business owner. I know that having your own business isn't taught in any book at Barnes & Nobles. It's not taught in most MBA programs. I always say the best MBAs are the ones that you figure out on your own. We go to the School of Hard Knocks of Entrepreneurship. And for each of you opening up an accounting firm, Who would have ever known you had to be a 24/7 salesperson too, right? Like you're doing all the technical work, you're doing the tax planning, you're doing the compliance work, you might be doing tax resolution, you might be doing executive business consulting, tax advice engagement. There's so many technical elements, but who taught you what to do on the business side? And that's really the part of client engagement, client follow-up, client enrollment, all of those other pieces that come with it. So it allows you to see the areas that you're weak in. When you're working with someone, you get like a mirror and you get to see, well, here's an area that I can improve on, or here's another area. And in order to serve more clients, we must see the areas that we are weak in. It's not the most fun, I'll be honest, but it's the biggest way to grow and get past any fears blocking you or anything like that. And if you hire the right coach, trust me, it'll be worth the time, and they will point out to you where you are missing the boat. And there's also a lot of different sales situations that maybe you haven't been trained in. So really only proper coaching can help you advance in those problem-solving areas on your own. So that is what I would say for, is it worth your time? And ultimately, it's for you to figure out, right? No one knows everything. And it's so interesting. I had a call this morning with a new client, and one of the things I said was, what is the thing that you're most interested in about getting started right now with a training program? And he said, Michelle, I'm 48 years old, and I could probably retire today, but there's always something else to learn. And if I am going to do executive business coaching and consulting, tax planning, consulting with business owners, then I need to learn what I don't know. And you never know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So for him, everyone needs to strive to learn one thing every day. I would say learn one thing new in an area that you're not the best at. So if you are the best tax planner out there, or you're doing tax resolution, or for him, he was doing a lot of estate tax planning work, then how can you learn one thing every day in the area that you're not that great in? So maybe it's in the area of sales or client relations or follow-up. Like my fellow client, Scott, he never followed up with anybody. He said, Michelle, I take that back. He did follow up, but he didn't follow up often enough. And he had $248,000 in revenue he did in a 2-month period that he probably could have done 12 months prior if he had a follow-up system in place. And a sales strategist or a sales coach or a business coach often gives you unique approaches that you may use to have learned in your past. I think I was supposed to say that you may have used in your past. So I've got all my notes in front of me, and I like to make sure that I hit every point, but that one was written wrong, so I apologize. Ian, you can get rid of this part. And, it also refreshes that everything is important. People forget tips. People forget tricks. In any sales process today in one of my classes, we were discussing, how to handle client questions. Like, I think it was Mary. So Mary got a call yesterday from a client, and the client said, hey, Mary, I'm thinking about buying this business. I want you to review the financials. And just literally, Mary picks up the phone and just starts listening to everything Ben had to tell her. Well, if you're deep in your work, what I shared with Mary is, why don't we honor our time and set up a new appointment with Ben for a future time and date? So you can think clearly, and Ben can honor and respect your time, which is really, really important. So no matter how good you are, you can always become better. And today, Mary learned that she needs to become better in the area of respecting her time, and that any phone call where someone picks up the phone and says, hey, I have a question and it's totally urgent. There's nothing ever too urgent. We are not in the business of people dying. We are not ER trauma surgeons. We're not on people, a lot of times I think our clients, and it's because of the way that we were trained, and I'm one of the same, I was trained that if I got this tax form or tax bill in the mail, I better call my CPA and I freak out, right? Like, we are trained to freak out about these things. And what I was showing Mary is actually if you slow it down a little bit and say, hey, Ben, you know what? I am so excited that you're about to buy this business. I am ecstatic, actually. But, I'm in the middle of 3 or 4 projects, and I want to make sure I give you a lot of time and focus on you. So would next week on Monday or Tuesday work best for you? I've got 3 slots open on both days. Which day works best? And leave it at that. Number one, this helps Ben understand your rules, right? What are you going to allow into your firm and what are you not? And from Mary's point of view, it was great because she has more time to think clearly, right? She's able to not only think clearly, but be more present to Ben instead of just answering our questions as we call and spew it off. So no one knows everything. That's the biggest takeaway from this, and there's always something to learn. All right. Hello, Nelson. Hello, Maurice. What's going on, you guys? And we're going to take a water break. What questions do you have? Do you want to put them in the comments below? What questions do you have? Any questions? Okay. The next important thing, which keeps you ahead of the curve. Very important. Through time, sales and enrollment trends change, right? The way that you operate your business today is probably very different than you operated 10 years ago, especially when you're offering higher value services. It's very different. I talk to a lot of accountants every week, and I would say one of the biggest things is that the thing that's changing the most in the industry is that with your new tax forms being filled out on a postcard eventually, or with places like, H&R Block or other places, you need to increase your value because the lower value work is going to go away soon. So do you want to work with 1,000 clients at like $10 a piece? I'm making up numbers. Or do you want to work with few clients at maybe $1,000 or $10,000 a piece? And that's your choice. But working with a sales strategist or working with a business coach will help people learn new methods. It will help you get the best outcome for your firm, but also for your clients. Because the whole client process, if you're working with services of $1,000 to $10,000, is very different than if you're offering a tax return at $100 or $150, right? It's a very different transaction. And I guess what I'm saying is that if you want to be transactional, then probably what you're doing is great. But if you want to shift into more value-based services where your client can understand your value and see it, and they're not going to buy off a spreadsheet, then this is an opportunity for that. You'll also become more effective at enrollment. You'll become more effective at selling and actually might like it a lot. A lot of accountants that I've talked to personally, Michelle, I hate the sales process. You forgot you signed up for a 24/7 sales career when you didn't want to work at one of the big firms or just have a job. But anytime a client calls you, just like Mary experienced with Ben, that's a sales conversation. That's the exact conversation that I'm talking about, in that setting the standard and making sure that she did not just give Ben all the answers right then and there, but hey, Ben, I have a time on Monday or Tuesday at this time, and really honoring Mary's boundaries in order to provide the top level service that Ben needs in order to see if he should invest or buy in this business. I think he was buying it outright. But, for you to review financials on the fly, no, that takes a different approach. So becoming more effective at enrollment, at selling, at servicing your clients from any coaching investment, I promise you, is a good ROI. I personally haven't been to any conference, haven't hired any coach, haven't done any leadership program that hasn't pretty much exploded my business or income and earnings. And if you invest in yourself, be it with myself, another business coach, or anyone who you believe that you like and that you also trust, it will pay off tremendously. And they'll hold you accountable, I'm sure, too. So, like I've shared with you, with Scott, we met about maybe 6 to 12 months ago. And he didn't really have a lot of time to invest prior to when we first spoke. He was really, really busy. So one of the red flags that I have is if you're too busy, then it's not going to be a really good fit. But he came back about 9 months later, and that's when he told me, Michelle, I've had these 5 clients that they've just been there. I haven't been able to help them because they're not calling me back. And every time I have a meeting, they want to think about it and they're not sure what they want to do. And anytime a client tells you they want to think about it, it's almost like painful, because especially if you're able to save them money, every year that goes by, it's costing them more and more. So a lot of Scott's clients, it was costing them anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 every year. They waited and waited and waited. So with that, Scott did, like I mentioned earlier, $248,000 in a 2-month period of working with me. He had another $100,000 that he was able to do in January of this year, which typically in every other January, his sales were a big fat 0. He said that he's never had January sales previously in his business, and that he normally, took that time off. And now he did an extra $100,000 in revenue. So what I'd like you to think about and consider is, how many missed opportunities have you had, maybe in the last 6 months or 12 months, by not seeking help or by not working on yourself as a firm owner? And really think about that, because not having the time to seek out anyone or work on yourself is not the best way to set you up for success. And I understand CPE credits are fabulous and great, but think about you as a person and your leadership and your growth, especially if you have a team of people. It's really, really important. And there's some interesting numbers I wanted to share with you today. And it was from a sales intelligence group, and I'll put it on in the show notes below. But 74% of leading companies say coaching is the most important thing you can invest in. And sales training can improve the performance of individuals on an average of 20% increase. So that's pretty good. That means you have a pretty good return on investment for sure. And like I said, if you click on the show notes below, it'll be all down there for you. So here are some things to consider when you're thinking about which sales strategist is right for you. Think about how much time do you want to spend with your strategist or coach, whichever word you want to call it. How professional and personal do you want them to be with you? It's another thing to consider. So if you've been looking at different programs, different people out there, think about that question. How many hours are you willing to dedicate? That's a key one. How many hours are you willing to dedicate to learning and investing in yourself? So for me personally, last week when I went to the conference, I was committed to dedicating about 6 hours a day for 3 days. So I invested 18 hours. For my leadership class for 6 months, oh my gosh, I invested probably anywhere from 10 to 15 hours per week for a 6-month period. Yeah, that much. So really, how many hours are you willing to dedicate? How serious are you? That's something you want to ask yourself. How serious are you to transforming your firm and growing your business? Do you want to do group sessions, or do you want to do one-on-one? Some people want to work one-on-one. Some people, you might even look into mastermind groups. There are definitely a few accounting mastermind groups for you to check out. I will put some of that in the show notes below too. So do you want group sessions? Do you want mastermind groups? Do you want one-on-one? Which one do you choose? So my takeaway for you is to do a little research. See why a sales strategist, a business coach is worth it. See what's out there. Do some Googling. Spend 15 minutes and Google away and see how this can help you grow the firm that you've always wanted, full of the clients that you love, full of abundance, and, see which sales strategist is right for you. All right. So I stopped the audio, but for anyone who is on Facebook, let me go over there right now. I will ask questions. So if you have a question, put it in the comments below, and I'm going to get to questions right now. Buy off of Nelson. Mike, Andrew Argue. Yeah, that's one. There's a few other mastermind groups out there, so I'll post them later in the comments. And who's here on Instagram? Always something to learn. So true. Completely. Yeah, you don't want to be complacent, right? So being complacent and not working on yourself is the first thing to a failed business. Let me tell you. For most of you that have been following me, you know about my failed business. All right. Well, if there's no questions, that's it for today. So I will see you guys again in a week or two on the next episode of the Abundant Accountant Podcast. And then this will be up on iTunes. So also, just to recap, man, that's a lot of talking. Half hour talking, that's a lot of talking. So, with all that being said, like I was saying earlier, I want to make sure that you screenshot this episode. You can share it on your LinkedIn, Facebook, or if you're on Instagram, your Instagram. And make sure you tag me at the Pitch Queen, and I will share your story. Also, I will be sharing a review of the week going forward. So I'm going to record that separately right now. So Ian, we'll do that separately. But I want to know what takeaways you had from today's episode. I want to know what you learned from today. I want to know what you put into action today. I would love to know which business coaches, sales strategists you reached out to and looked into in investing in yourself and in your business. So like I said, take a screenshot, share it. And also, I would be grateful if you could leave a rating and a review on iTunes. And we will put the link in the comments below and also in the show notes below. So thank you so much for being with me. Have an amazing day.